The Canucks have a major decision to make, as one key factor will play into any offseason moves the franchise makes this summer, with just as many players considered safe from this condition as much as there are on the chopping block. We're going to be breaking down all that in this episode of Canucks Digest, but first, if you want to help us reach our goal of 7,500 subscribers before the NHL draft next month, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you can stay up to date on all things Canucks. And with that, let's hop straight into the first topic of the day, which is last call for waivers. So we are seeing a few Canucks that are on their last season of waiver exemption eligibility. And if you're wondering what exactly considers a player exempt from waivers, you can take a look right here and pause if you want to take a read. But we're going to jump into these four factors. The first one being the age when first signed. A player's age at the time of signing their first NHL contract affects how long they are exempt from waivers. Younger players get more time before needing to clear waivers. For example, an 18-year-old is exempt for up to 5 years, while a player aged 25 or older is only exempt for 1 year. NHL games played. Once a player reaches a certain number of NHL games, their waiver exemption ends. For skaters, it's typically 160 games. For goalies, it's up to 80 NHL games. After reaching a limit, they must clear waivers before being sent down to the minor. Then, as well as years of exemption, waiver exemptions last for a specific number of years depending on the player's age, similar to the first factor that we looked at. And then you also have previously cleared waivers, which is a factor that we're not going to really look at when we're seeing some of the players on this list. But as it pertains to the Canucks specifically, when we're looking at some of the names here, there are 7 names that we're going to be looking at, those being Arshdeep Bains, Ty Glover, Linus Karlsson, heading over into Victor Mancini is one that is a fairly rare case, as well as Max Sasson reaching that game threshold. But then you also have Cole McWard, as well as Aatu Ratu, Artur Shilovs, and some others. So there's a few that we're going to be looking at on here, but there is definitely a lot of moves that the Canucks do have to make as far as the waivers are concerned. There are a few names on this list that I definitely think are considered safe, and that's going to bring us into our second topic of the day, which is the top 4 priorities. So as I was just saying, there were some names on there that I definitely think are safe, and there are some that I think are on the chopping block. As far as the names on that list that I think are safe, there are 4 that we're going to be looking at here. First one being Artur Shilovs. This is a scenario where the Canucks know that they have a lot of goalie struggles, and Artur Shilovs has been a perfect fill-in for when he's been needed. I know he had that massive breakout season and a half ago, almost 2 seasons by the start of next season, with the Vancouver Canucks bursting out in the playoffs after Thatcher Demko went down and Casey DeSmith just was not getting the job done. He started off this season a little bit rocky as the number 1B goalie with Thatcher Demko still sidelined, which sent him back down to Abbotsford, where he absolutely was shining with a 90 save percentage, and then carrying that into the playoffs with a 92% save percentage, which has been awesome to watch. Even though he struggled a little bit in game 2 in the second round, he is still somebody that is an absolute priority for this Vancouver Canucks team. When you look at our struggles that we have, Kevin Lankinen, he's been fantastic. Thatcher Demko, fantastic. But Demko, there's a lot of health problems there, and it doesn't seem like he's ever fully healthy, and when he is, he's hurt again right away. So with that, you can't entirely rely on Kevin Lankinen to play 60 games a season, 70 games a season. You got to bring someone in there who is going to bring that relief. Is Ty Young that guy? Not necessarily. Is Talopil that guy? Who knows? But Artur Shilovs has been the guy in Abbotsford this season, and is somebody that is poised for a redemption arc in the NHL, and I think he's very close to getting back to that, especially with Manny Malhotra developing for him for a year. We really saw Shilovs kind of take a leap, going from 90.7 to 90.8. I know it's not a big jump, but then you also have the playoff performances that he's putting in. He's playing fantastic for Abbotsford this season. Now, the other name that I think is definitely safe from this list is somebody that is going to be a full-time Canucks roster resident next season. I'm calling it. That's going to be Aatu Ratu. This is somebody that we have seen really flourish in Abbotsford this season, getting a lot of points, 40 points in 43 games. With the Vancouver Canucks, it didn't exactly translate as well, but he was still really contributing, getting a lot of assists, and there was a lot to really like about his game this season. A lot of fans were really happy with what they saw on the ice, me being one of them. I think Ratu is somebody that we're going to be seeing for at least a few more seasons in Vancouver, so definitely expect him to be given the go-ahead to not have to go on waivers, and expect Vancouver to try and get him locked down to something so that they don't have to risk losing him to another team for nothing and just taking that chance. Because that's the big thing with all this, is that if there is no guarantee that you're going to lose a player. There's no guarantee you're going to get back a player. There's going to be that risk. So when that waiver period hits, it's a very scary time because you don't know what's going to happen with those players. A third person on that list that I know a lot of Canucks fans are very concerned about is Linus Karlsson, who, yes, all these guys that I'm pulling from have had fantastic seasons with the Abbotsford Canucks, but they've also been playing fairly well on the Vancouver roster as well. It's not just the Abbotsford guys that we're hoping stick around. These are guys that have been able to make the jump into the NHL for the Vancouver Canucks for a little bit, whether it was in the regular season or in the playoffs. These guys have still gotten their opportunities, and we want to see them continue to get those opportunities. So Linus Karlsson is another one of those guys that I think can be considered safe, so to speak, as it pertains to the waiver list that we have for the Vancouver Canucks this upcoming season, and some players that are reaching that mark. And the fourth person that we're going to jump into is Victor Mancini, someone that the Canucks recently acquired from the New York Rangers, and somebody that the Canucks are very excited about. And with what he was doing in Abbotsford, a lot of people are very excited to see what more that he can do. I know he hasn't done too much craziness. He's only been there a little bit, but it does leave a lot of room for growth heading into next season with this Vancouver Canucks team. So overall, I think when we're looking at Artur Silovs, Aatu Räty, Linus Karlsson, and Victor Mancini, I think those are the players that a lot of Canucks fans can kind of take a bit of a sigh of relief on and consider those players safe, and we don't have to worry about losing those guys to another team, especially for nothing. Now, that takes us on to the flip side of the coin. The players that I don't think are necessarily considered safe or on the chopping block. And this is going to piss off some fans. It's going to validate some fans, but I think it's going to be a risky move nonetheless. And that is when we're looking at some of the players that I don't think will be for sure signed by the Vancouver Canucks and will be left to go back on waivers with the chance that the Canucks bring them back. And one of those being Arshdeep Bains. I think when you look at his production that he brought to the Vancouver Canucks when he was brought in earlier in the regular season last year, wasn't exactly the outlook that they were looking for coming out of a shining season in Abbotsford. And he's been great in Abbotsford, don't get me wrong. And I know a lot of the guys that we looked at that I think are considered safe were really great in Abbotsford, but those guys were still able to make a considerable jump to the NHL as far as production. Now, in the case of Arshdeep Bains, do I think that he's somebody that will get snatched up by a team right away and the Canucks won't be able to get him back? No, I think if anything, he's the one person that I think is on this list considered on the chopping block that you can consider a good shot that the Canucks will bring back, because I don't think there's a lot of interest from other teams as far as signing him. So if this is a case where he goes on waivers, he clears waivers, the Canucks definitely bring him back. That is one that I can consider, yeah, you bring him back for sure, especially if you don't have to lose him to waivers. Another person that I'm looking at as well is Ty Glover as well. He is not panned out exactly the way that we would have liked to have seen in Abbotsford or in Vancouver. So I think that is somebody that you can consider a bit on the chopping block. Some other guys in there too as well. Cole McWard, he's somebody that I think is definitely going to be on the chopping block, especially considering the lack of production we've seen overall at both levels. And the last one that I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me about is Max Sasson. I definitely think this is going to be a case where we probably won't see Max Sasson back. I know he's not on that year of eligibility, but he is almost close to that games threshold and is going to be very close to that within the first half of the season if he does get a lot of starts. But with that, unless he shows a lot of flash earlier in the season, I don't see the Canucks having a lot of reason to just make sure he doesn't go on waivers and lock him down. So I think this is going to be a case where we will see him go on waivers. But with that being said, I don't think that completely rules out that he's going to be gone. Maybe teams aren't as interested, just like the case of Arshdeep Bains. With any of these players, if there's a scenario where they don't clear waivers, or they are put on waivers, and the Canucks are able to bring them back, I definitely think they will. But the big question is, that is a massive risk to run, and this will influence everything that the Canucks do this offseason as far as going out and trading for guys, free agency, and whatnot beyond, because we had a lot of guys have to come up from the AHL this past season, and the Canucks do not want to have to repeat that, or if they're having to go back down that road, they want to make sure that it's somebody reliable that can jump into that slot. So let us know in the comments what you guys think about these players that we covered. Which of them do you think will be coming back? Which ones do you think are considered safe, whether they're going to be coming back either by clearing waivers or not even getting to that point? And which players do you think will be put on waivers and scooped up by another team? Let us know what you guys have to say down below, and let us know what you guys think on the Abbotsford Canucks season this year. I know we haven't covered them too much on this channel just because of all the drama with Vancouver this year, but they're in the second round going for a Calder. Let us know what you guys think about Abbotsford season if you guys have been watching, and let us know what you guys think down in the comments below about everything to do with the Canucks so far this offseason. But that's going to do it for this episode of Canucks Digest. I've been your host, Griffen. Take care.